First of all, let's get a few things straight. I don't expect you to post any numbers, drink anything, or do anything that you don't want to do. If you like the video by the end of it, then hit like. If you'd like to see more of my videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Now let's get into it. I'm Asher, 25, and not begging for scraps. My toxic family thinks I am a loser. That's what they tell their wealthy social circle. They say that I dropped out of college, am living in a rundown studio apartment, and drive a highly visible third-hand sedan. They have no idea who I really am. I built my life on my own with no help from them. My brother, Maxwell, is the golden child of the family. He is 2 years my junior, and he was born with a proverbial silver spoon in his mouth. My parents adore him. They fund his stupid fake life purely out of their own pockets. Maxwell hasn't had a real job in 2 years. He's 23, fresh out of college, and can't find a job in the field he chose. The reason that they treat me like a second-class citizen isn't because they love one son and not the other. No, it is because I am adopted. I had found the paperwork in my mother's files when I was helping her reorganize after Christmas 5 years ago. It took some digging, but I found out who my biological mother was. She was the younger sister of Margaret Thompson, my adopted mother. She had died having me, and I went to an orphanage. Margaret and her new husband, Charles, swooped in and adopted me. They didn't know that I was the baby that her younger sister had died to bring into the world. They were told it was a closed adoption and the information was withheld from them. When I was in college, a lawyer contacted me. He told me that he worked for the estate of my grandfather, Horace Winfield. I asked how that man was my grandfather. Mr. Tate, the lawyer, told me that Horace Winfield was the father of Jason Winfield. Jason and Meredith had dated in high school. He had taken her virginity on prom night. I was conceived. Jason was killed on prom night when his car collided with an 18-wheeler, the driver having fallen asleep at the wheel. Meredith had died in childbirth, written off by her parents for getting pregnant with me in the first place. Mr. Tate told me that Horace had tried to reach out, but it took years for him to find me. When he did, he witnessed the treatment of his grandson. He decided that he would leave his entire estate to the grandson he'd been forbidden to know. Mr. Tate told me that I had inherited Horace's lucrative timepiece business. Winfield Timepieces was known all over the world. They made exquisite watches and sold them for a fortune. Each watch was handmade and meticulously crafted. They were made from metals like titanium, white gold, gold, and silver. They made clocks as well. These clocks were so beautiful with glass walls that let you see the 14-karat gold gears inside. To own one of these clocks was to show wealth. I had inherited the company outright along with all of the money that Horace had amassed over the years. I was a billionaire. I'd also inherited Horace's house, which was in Clayton, an affluent suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my brother. I let them continue to treat me like dirt. I didn't buy flashy cars, and I didn't purchase a mansion. I simply moved into a spacious condo and purchased a reliable brand new sedan to replace the one that could fall apart at a moment's notice. I didn't invite my family to see my new condo. I didn't post pictures on social media. I simply lived. Winfield Timepieces was run by a man named Adam Colson. He was doing a wonderful job. Horace had put him in charge when his health began to fail. He'd also hired an auditing firm to keep Adam squarely on legal footing with the company. They made sure that there were no irregularities in the cash flow. It was airtight. I didn't have to do a thing. I just sat back and collected revenue. I met Alyssa Brassfield at a party thrown at the country club to celebrate my father's retirement. She was the black sheep of her family, too. Her parents, Joan and David Brassfield, were social elite and friends with Margaret and Charles. We sat alone at a table in the back of the room and struck up a conversation. We hit it off. That party turned into coffee dates, dinners, and quiet walks through the park under the setting sun. I told her I loved her on a clear spring day when I was 24. She had cried and told me that she'd been desperately hoping that I'd say those words to her. We kissed and it was magical. She moved into my condo and we started to plan our life together. I did announce our engagement and we held a small party in our condo. I didn't invite my family. She didn't invite hers. We invited friends and some of her colleagues. Alyssa was a nurse who worked in the pediatric wing of the hospital in the city we lived in. She was well respected and loved by her coworkers. Pictures from the engagement party showed up on social media. My family saw them. Margaret called me. She asked about the engagement party and asked why none of them were invited. I told her that I hadn't thought they'd want to attend. I was a loser after all. She hung up on me. Then a curious thing happened. Winfield Timepieces got an order from the city where I lived. It was an order for one of those high-priced clocks. I flagged the order and looked at the details. It was Charles Porter. He was trying to buy a clock for the wedding anniversary that was a month away. He was going to give Margaret one of my clocks. I let it go through, but I changed the delivery address to my own. Alyssa asked me what I was doing. I smiled at her. "Are you sure you want to live in this city?" I asked her. "Are you thinking of relocating?" she asked with a smile. "I am," I said. What better way to get out from under a toxic family than to move to another city in the house that was left to me and take my rightful place at the company that I own? "I'll start looking into license information in Missouri," she said. "Start prepping for the move." I listed the condo for sale. My toxic family came face to face with me on this too. It seemed that Margaret and Charles wanted to buy my condo for Maxwell. I told the realtor to let the sale go through. I even requested to meet the buyers when we signed the papers. This was going to be absolutely fun. I went to the realtor's office, a posh brown brick building in the downtown business district. The inside was wood and glass. There were 3 realtors doing business in the building. We met in the conference room. Margaret about choked when she saw me walk in. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her tone ice. "You're buying my condo," I said simply. "We're here to sign the papers." "Your condo?" she asked coldly. "How could you afford a condo?" "There's a lot you don't know about me," I said to her as the realtor, Tawny Banks, came into the room. She was a no-nonsense woman with sleek blonde hair pulled back into a seam at the back of her head, sharp brown eyes that took in the scene in the conference room, carrying a leather portfolio with all of the details of the condo inside. She wore a charcoal gray business suit with a cream-colored shirt underneath. "Oh, good," she said. "You've met. Shall we get started?" "This is my son, Asher," Margaret said. "Tell me he's not the owner of the condo. He can't afford something like this." "But he is the owner," Tawny said, smiling widely. "Mr. Asher Winfield bought the condo 2 years ago. I was shocked when he decided to list it." "How could you afford a condo?" Margaret demanded of me. "I can afford it because I own a watchmaking company that is very lucrative," I said honestly. "You don't own a company," she scoffed. "Actually, he does," Tawny said. "I vet all of my buyers thoroughly. Mr. Asher Winfield owns Winfield Timepieces." Marquette's face went pale. She looked at me like she'd never seen me before. She gripped the handles of her purse so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She stared at me like she'd swallowed a bitter pill. I simply looked back at her, my face placid. I wasn't giving her an inch. She calmed down and she pulled a pen out of her purse. "Let's get on with this," she said. Before she could sign, I let out a sigh. I turned to Tawny. "Actually, Tawny," I said, "I've decided to reject their offer. The condo will remain in my name today." "You've decided not to sell?" she asked with a smile. "Yes," I said. "I've decided that I'll keep the condo in my name and rent it out." "I can handle that for you," she said while Margaret glared at me. "Thank you, Tawny," I said. "We'll set up the paperwork before I leave today." "You're going to deny the sale?" Margaret asked, her voice cold. "I am," I said. "I've decided that I don't want you to buy it." "You ungrateful little punk," she spat. "You can't just dangle the condo in front of us and then rip it away." "I can because I own it," I said. "I've decided not to sell it. It could make more money as a rental. Then let us rent it from you, she said. No, I said. I'll vet the renters very well. Maxwell doesn't have a job. He can't make the rent every month without help. I need stable renters, Margaret. He's your brother, she protested. Actually, he's not, I said. I'm not even your son. I'm the son of your sister and Jason Winfield. I was placed in an orphanage when my mother, Meredith Thompson, died in childbirth. My father, Jason Winfield, was killed on prom night when his car was struck by an 18-wheeler. Maxwell is my cousin, you are my aunt, and I'm done with your toxic treatment of me because I was adopted. I know who I am, and I refuse to let you treat me like garbage. Maxwell is not living in the condo that I purchased. I forbid it. You're Meredith's child, she gasped. Yes, I said. I know it was a closed adoption, but they unsealed the records for me, the adopted son. It didn't take much to get them to do it. It seems that it was only a closed adoption because your father didn't want anyone in the family to adopt me. He turned his back on Meredith for getting pregnant with me. I even know that you mocked her for being an unwed mother. Surprise, the unborn child of the young woman you openly mocked was the baby you adopted, treated like scum, and now holds the keys to the very life you want for your golden child. As this is no longer a sale of the condo, and Mr. Winfield has decided not to sell the condo at all, I'm afraid this doesn't concern you, Mrs. Porter, Tawny said to her. Mr. Winfield, Margaret asked, finally noticing that I was called by another name than hers. I changed my last name legally to my father's last name as it should have been all along. My name is Asher Winfield, I said. I have no middle name, because I didn't like being named after a man who has done nothing to show me any love in my life. She and Charles Porter got up and left the conference room. Tawny smiled at me and I smiled back. We set up the lease agreement that day. I even decided on $2,500 for the rent. She told me she'd have no trouble renting the condo. I thanked her and told her that I'd hire a manager to oversee the rental. Please make sure that no one with the last name of Porter has anything to do with the condo, I said. I'll make sure of it, she said. I'll work closely with the manager you hire as this is listed as a rental through my real estate company. Very good, I said. I shook her hand, signed the paperwork to make it a rental and left the offices. Did you sell the condo to Margaret? Alyssa asked when I came into the condo after the meeting. No, I said. I'm not selling. I hired David Sass as the manager to oversee the property for me, and Tawny will collect the rent and send me a check every month. I'm leasing out the condo. David Sass was my best friend from college. Margaret and Charles hated him because his family was wealthy and had nothing to do with them. David knew all about the way they treated me growing up, and his parents were sickened by it. They actively snubbed Margaret and Charles at the country club. Good, she said. They don't deserve to buy it for Max. Max needs to stand on his own 2 feet. He can't do that if they keep bailing him out. I told Tawny to make sure that no one named Porter has anything to do with it, I said. Good, she said again. David doesn't like them anyway. He'll make sure that they have nothing to do with the condo. That's right, I said, smiling. It's all sewn up. Max will eventually stand on his own 2 feet, if they give him the chance. I have nothing against him. I just won't let them buy my condo or rent it for him. If he wants to rent it, he needs a steady job and he has to come directly to me. That's a good idea, she said. I like Max, but he's so coddled that it makes me sick. He has to get out from under them and stand on his own 2 feet. Did you know that he'd have had a job if Charles hadn't talked the companies he'd applied to out of hiring him? He's actively sabotaging his golden child to keep him under his thumb, I asked. That's what it sounds like, she said. I wish there was a way to help him. Alyssa and I quietly moved from Chicago to St. Louis, Missouri. We moved into the house that my grandfather had left me. It was located in Clayton, Missouri, which was a suburb of St. Louis, and real estate value was prime. The house was a sprawling estate with 3 stories, 6 bedrooms, and 4 bathrooms. It sat on a large plot of land, and it was a gray stone building with a slate roof and black shutters. The interior of the house was massive and beautiful. We moved in quietly without fanfare. I did buy a more expensive car. Alyssa quickly got her license figured out and started at St. Louis Children's Hospital the very next week. I went to the factory for Winfield Timepieces and took my place as the CEO. I kept tabs on Maxwell. I learned through friends in the city that he'd finally gotten a job working as an investment manager for a low-level investment company. It was what he'd gone to college for. I want to make something clear here. Though I didn't think he deserved to live in the condo if he couldn't pay his rent on his own, I held no ill will for him. Max was as much a victim of the toxic environment we'd grown up in as I was. I didn't hate him, and I certainly didn't want him to fail. I just didn't want my parents to pay his rent forever. I'd like to say that was the end of my involvement with the toxic Porter family. I'd like to say that they just left me alone. I'd like to say that, but it would be a lie. 2 years after we moved into the house and I took my place at the company, a gold-embossed invitation arrived. It was for Maxwell's wedding. He was marrying a young woman named Andra Breckenridge. We were cordially invited to the wedding. It was being held at St. John Cantius Church in Chicago. They weren't Catholic, so I didn't know how they'd gotten that church. I sat the invitation on the kitchen island and sighed. Alyssa came in to get another bottle of juice and looked at the invitation. She read it and looked at me. "Are we going to this?" she asked. "I haven't decided," I said. "On one hand, I'm curious. On the other, I'm just done." "I understand," she said. "It's your decision." In the end, I bought a suit. I actually had to be measured and all of that. It was a bespoke black 4-piece suit complete with white gold cuff links with the W for my last name in yellow gold. It was amazingly sharp and said businessman all over it. I bought Alyssa a beautiful tea-length peach-colored dress with crystals around the neckline. It was beautiful, and she was beautiful when she put it on. We drove from Clayton to Chicago and attended the wedding. No one bothered much with us at the wedding itself. People looked at us. We were easily the best-dressed people at the wedding. Then there was the reception after the wedding that was held at Intercontinental Chicago Magnificent Mile Hotel. How they'd afforded that I had no idea. It was elegant with crystal chandeliers, a parquet floors, and tables covered in cream-colored elegant tablecloths. There was fine china on the tables with crystal goblets and champagne flutes. We chose a table and sat down. It didn't take long for Maxwell and his bride to come to our table. "Asher, it's good that you came," Max said. "Alyssa, you look lovely." "Thank you, Max," she said. "Andra, you look amazing." "Thank you," she said, smiling brightly. "Max tells me that you own Winfield Timepieces." "That's right," I said, smiling. "Have you seen our work?" "My mother has a collection of your clocks," she said, smiling again. "She gave us one for a wedding gift." "That's great," I said. "I'm happy for you both." "Mom didn't think you'd come," Max said. "My problem with your parents has nothing to do with you," I said. "I have nothing against you, Max." "Thank you, Asher," he said. "I didn't know. You blocked the sale of the condo and wouldn't let them rent it, so I wasn't sure what you thought of me." "You were a product of that toxic household, too," I said. "I never held any ill will toward you." "They're practically salivating because Andra's family is wealthy," he said, looking tired suddenly. "They've been telling me that I made a perfect match by marrying Andra. They don't know that her parents don't think very well of them. They tried to inject themselves into the planning of this wedding," Andra said. "My mother was meticulous. She knew exactly what kind of wedding she wanted me to have. My father paid for everything." That explained the church and the venue. I smiled at her. I handed them the gift I'd brought for them. It was another clock, but it was the newest model that wasn't even available yet. It was at least 2 feet tall with solid brushed titanium pillars that held the glass in place. The gears inside were half white gold and half 14-karat gold. The spinning globes at the bottom were made from cut crystal. The top of the clock was a dome of brushed titanium with a cut crystal globe at the very top in the center. "Thank you, Asher," Max said, beaming at me. "This is exquisite," Andra said, her eyes wide. "Thank you so much." "I'm glad you like it, Andra," I said, smiling warmly. "It's the newest of the bunch. It isn't available for sale yet." "My mother will die," she said with a delighted smile. "She loves the clocks from Winfield." "I'll send her an exclusive catalog of our newest pieces," I said. "She'd love that," she said. "We're working on bigger clocks now," I said. "A grandfather clock and a matching tower clock. You'll have to come to the showroom to see them." "That'd be awesome," Max said. "Listen, I'm so glad that you don't hate me, Asher." "Why would I hate you, Max?" I asked. "Because of the way they treated you all of our lives," he said. "They were rotten to me because I was adopted," I said. "You were. You never had a bad word for me and you were pushed into the spotlight. You didn't actively seek it. I saw how uncomfortable their high expectations for you made you. Max, I don't hate you. In that entire family, you are the only one I would have come back to Chicago for. I feel bad because I never said anything to stop the way they treated you," he said. "You were a kid," I said. "I don't hold anything against you. I'm so happy for you and Andra." "When are you and Alyssa getting married?" Andra asked. "We're choosing the date," Alyssa said, smiling. "Will it be in the city?" Max asked. "Probably," I said. "We have our eye on a few places in the city." "I have my heart set on the Four Seasons Hotel," Alyssa said, smiling. "That'd be great," Andra said. "I can't wait for it." "We'll definitely send you an invitation," I said, smiling. "You have to meet my parents," she said, gasping. "They'll love to meet the man behind Winfield timepieces." She led Alyssa and me to the head table where her parents were seated. She introduced us as Asher and Alyssa Winfield. Her mother smiled brightly. She stood and shook my hand. "I have a collection of clocks from your company," she said. "Margaret and Charles never told me that you were their son." "I'm not their son," I said. "They're my aunt and uncle. They adopted me, but they treated me like scum. I have nothing to do with them." "Well," she said, smiling, "that means I don't have to pretend to like them in front of you." "No, you don't," I said, smiling back. "I told Andra that I would send you a catalog of all of the new stuff the company is working on. It'll give you first option." "That would be amazing," she said. "Is this your wife?" "This is my fiancée," I said, "Alyssa Brassfield." "Joy Breckenridge," she said, offering her hand to Alyssa. "What do you do, dear?" "I'm a pediatric nurse at St. Louis Children's Hospital," she said. "I'm studying to become a nurse practitioner." "That's wonderful," Joy said, smiling. She put her hand on the man's arm who was standing next to her. "This is my husband, Garland." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Garland," I said, shaking his hand. "The pleasure is mine," he said. "So, they treated you like garbage, huh?" "They treated him like garbage and me like gold," Max said. "It was sickening." "Young man, I'm amazed that you grew up in that environment and thrived in spite of it," Garland said to Max. "I'm happy to call you family." "Thank you," he said, blushing. "Asher, I hear that your last name is Winfield," he said. "That must have been a slap in the face to the Porters." "It was," I laughed. "I washed my hands of them." Then, as if saying their last name was a summons, Margaret and Charles walked up to us. Charles put his hand on my shoulder and Margaret gushed with fake warmth. "I see you've met our successful son, Asher," she said to Joy and Garland. "Save it, Margaret," Joy said coldly. "I know he isn't your son. His success has nothing to do with you or your husband." "What have you been telling them?" Margaret demanded of me. "We told them the truth," Max said. "You were terrible to him and you treated me like I hung the moon. If I hadn't gone to college and learned a trade, you'd have kept me unemployed and living with you forever. I escaped you just like Asher did." "What are you talking about?" Charles asked. "He's talking about the toxic environment that was your house for both of us growing up," I said calmly. "You treated me like the scum on the bottom of your shoe, all because I was adopted. You treated Max like the golden child because he was your biological son. Then he learned that Charles was actively sabotaging his jobs when he found them. We're done with you." "Max, you know we love you," Margaret said. "No, Mom," he said. "You love that I married Andra. It fits into the little box you put my life in. Well, I'm breaking out of the box. I'm just as done with you as Asher is." "Max, what are you saying?" Charles asked. "I'm saying that I'm done with both of you," he said. "Asher says you're not his parents, so I'm not his brother. Well, to me, he is more a brother than you are a father." "You've poisoned him against us," Margaret accused me, pointing her finger at me. "No, Margaret," I said calmly. "He came to this decision all on his own. You and your husband drove him to it." "Asher, I'll have you thrown out of this building," Charles said. "Actually, you won't," Garland said, glaring at him. "We paid for this venue. We paid for everything because you're broke. You can't throw anyone out of this building." "Garland, don't let what he says color the way you think of us," Margaret pleaded. "Asher hasn't said anything to color the way I think of you," Garland said. "I see you for who you really are." "What are you saying?" Margaret asked, the color draining from her face. "You two are parasites," he said coldly. "You see this wedding between your son and my daughter as a way to leech onto my money. Well, I'm telling you now that you two will never receive a dime from me." "I know about the gambling debt, Dad," Max said to Charles. "I know about the foreclosure proceedings on the house. I know that you stole Asher's college fund to bail yourselves out of bankruptcy all those years ago. I know all of it." "Asher, honey, we're your parents," Margaret said to me. She had that desperate look in her eyes. "My parents, Meredith Thompson and Jason Winfield, are dead," I said. "You are my mother's sister. You aren't my parents. You never were. You adopted me to make yourselves look good. Then you treated me like garbage. You killed all familial feeling I had for you a long time ago. Don't come to me with your problems because I don't care about them. I will not save you. I will not give you a dime. I'm done with you." "We're going to lose the house if you don't help," Charles said. "Then you're going to lose the house," I said. "What is that to me? I hated living there. I wouldn't throw water on it if it were on fire." "Go back to your table and sit down," Garland said. "Eat the expensive food I provided and drink the expensive wine I provided. You are the parents of the groom, so I won't throw you out, but I won't put up with you being in my line of sight any longer. Go." They went. We all went back to our tables. We got through the reception. Then I exchanged numbers with Max. Alyssa exchanged numbers with Andra. I got her mother's mailing address for the catalog. Then we drove back to the city and to our house. 1 year later, I married Alyssa in a lavish ceremony at the Four Seasons Hotel in St. Louis. I sent Max and Andra an invitation. I sent Garland and Joy an invitation. I did not send Margaret and Charles an invitation, but they came anyway. I heard from Max that they got Charles's brother to save the house for them. Charles got a new job and all was well. They came to the wedding in nice clothes, but I seated them at the very back. Andra was Alyssa's maid of honor, and Max was my best man. If anyone had told me growing up that Max and I would one day be as close as we are, I'd have told them to seek mental help. It surprises me still that Max and I are so close. Over the years since his wedding, he and Andra have been guests in my home for every holiday. Garland and Joy spent Christmas with us. I've driven to Chicago to help Max with this or that in his condo. Now he was the best man at my wedding, and my friends thought it was fitting. The ballroom was elegantly set up. It was perfect for Alyssa's big day. She had absolutely nothing to do with her family, so I had paid for the whole thing from the dresses to the catering and flowers. I let her go hog wild planning the whole thing. I just paid the bill and said I do at the right time. We flew to Hawaii for our honeymoon. We spent 2 fun-filled weeks on the beach, trying to learn to snorkel and having a ball. We took 1 million pictures and had a great time. Back in Clayton, we settled into the house. Alyssa worked part-time and went to classes full-time. I was all right with that. I was happy. That was what I was. I was so happy that I didn't care that the Porters were at my wedding. I didn't care that they were seated at the back. I was free of them now. We celebrated the birth of Max and Andra's first child. She had a beautiful baby girl that they named Cassandra. She was so cute. They came to celebrate the birth of our first child. Alyssa gave me a son. We named him Preston Maxwell Winfield. As they grew, the pair of them grew close. They spent time together, with Preston showing Cassie the showroom of the store in Clayton and Cassie showing Preston her dad's new corner office. Things worked out for me. I had a beautiful wife, a son that I doted on, and a brother with a family that I loved. I just didn't have anything to do with my aunt and uncle. That chapter of my life is closed.